Are you living in the crucifixion or the resurrection? Susie, what do you mean by that? Well, I'll tell you. Uh, for 2,000 years, right, the cross has been this huge symbol in our world. And today is Easter Sunday, 2023. So I've been thinking a lot about the crucifixion and the resurrection. And how does it relate for us today, here and now? Some Christians actually reenact the stations of the cross with every step and fall that Jesus took on his way to the cross or to the crucifixion. They try to feel what he felt, the whip on his back, the bloody knee when he stumbled. And I've thought about that a lot, the stations of the cross, because I grew up and all my best friends were Catholic and went to Catholic school. And I used to love the beautiful statues. And I wondered about, I never did the stations of the cross, but it captured my imagination as a little kid. I was like, wow, I don't know, something about it just felt kind of scary and gross and awesome. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anyone's religious beliefs. I just wonder, is this what Jesus really wants us to do? Like, does it make him happy looking down, seeing millions of people reenacting the gruesome steps of his murder in great detail? I mean, if I was murdered, would I want my kids to reenact my brutal murder once a year on the anniversary of my death? I'm sorry to be so blunt, but is it possible to have common sense when it comes to religion and faith, or are those mutually exclusive, right? I love the joke that Lenny Bruce told. He was a famous comedian in the 60s, and he said if Jesus had been killed today, Catholic school kids would be wearing little electric chairs around their necks. Or also, I think, what if he would have been shot? Would we wear little pistols around our neck? Okay, I'm going to take a breath because sometimes I get frustrated with the lack of common sense and logic when it comes to things that people just believe. I mean, and I understand faith is faith and it doesn't always make sense. But I also believe that those of us who have brains, which I think is all of us, it's important to exercise our critical thinking and to bring in common sense, even in our faith and our religion. So if you came to Earth, just imagine, and your main goal, your whole purpose in acting, we would say your super objective, right, was to spread the message to everyone you met that they need to love each other, that you're all one, and that the key to that oneness is through forgiveness. And that really true forgiveness is when you realize there's nothing to forgive. And you lived your life, and then you were crucified, you laid in the tomb dead for 3 days, and then you were resurrected and you walked around the earth for 40 days telling everybody to remember, love each other, do this in remembrance of me, love, 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 love. Jesus was a broken record, right? Love, love, love. That was pretty much his main message, love. And if you had done that, and I mean, just think of it. Do you think you'd be thrilled if the main takeaway from the human race since you left was from all that effort that you did, and then the main thing that human beings perpetuated for thousands of years, that we ought to feel guilty, ashamed, terrified, and that we should focus upon the method of his murder rather than the miracle of his resurrection and everlasting life? Is this where religion gets it wrong? Like, really wrong? I mean, if I went to all the trouble to raise from the dead, like seriously, like that's kind of a big deal. It's like the big deal, right? To realize that death isn't forever. Death, where is thy sting? I don't know who said that. That might have been Shakespeare. I don't know. But that we can live forever, right? After we leave these bodies, there's still more life. I believe that Jesus channeled A Course in Miracles. And I know that's a big leap for many people, but as a serious student of the Bible College, I've studied the Course in Miracles for 30 years, and I have yet to find a discrepancy where it doesn't feel true to me. So I wondered what he said about the crucifixion, so I looked it up. And in chapter 4 of A Course in Miracles, Jesus says, the journey to the cross should be the last useless journey. And there's quotation marks, which is significant because he doesn't just throw them around a lot in the Course. So the journey to the cross should be the last useless journey. Do not dwell upon it. That answers my question right there. He pretty much says, do not dwell upon it, but dismiss it as accomplished. If you can accept it as your own last useless journey, you are also free to join my resurrection. And until you do so, your life is indeed wasted. It merely reenacts the separation, the loss of power, the futile attempts of the ego at reparation, and finally, the crucifixion of the body or death. Such repetitions are endless until they are voluntarily given up. Do not make the pathetic error of, and this, can I tell you guys, growing up in the church, this really shocked me. Do not make the pathetic error of, in quotation marks again, clinging to the old rugged cross. Do you know how many times I sang that song in church? I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. The old rugged cross. Are you kidding? That was sacred. But Jesus himself in the Course says the only message of the crucifixion is that you can overcome the cross. Until then, you are free to crucify yourself as often as you choose. And the best song about that is by Tori Amos. It's called Crucify. Look it up on Spotify. And she sings so beautifully, why do we crucify ourselves every day? We crucify ourselves. So Tori Amos and Jesus Christ are saying the same thing, right? Why do we crucify ourselves? So Jesus says you're free to crucify yourself as often as you choose, but this is not the gospel I intended to offer you. We have another journey to undertake. He says, if you read these lessons carefully in A Course in Miracles, they will help prepare you to undertake it. It's verses like these that make me love A Course in Miracles. I was super hyper devout. I was very religious and serious about studying the Bible. At 17 years old, I could have went to any school, and I chose to go to a teeny tiny little Bible college in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It wasn't glamorous. I went there because I truly loved the Bible. And so I studied it very well. And when I read these words that Jesus wrote in the Course in Miracles, I feel the truth in them, and it excites me because it really never felt great to me to dwell upon guilt and sin. I did it, but it certainly never helped me be a healthier, happier person. The Jesus Christ who rose from the dead is a human being who embodied perfect, majestic love, right? Generous, enthusiastic, overflowing love and forgiveness. And not the sanctimonious, manipulative kind of forgiveness, the forgiveness that says, Father, forgive them. They don't even know what they're doing. They just don't know, right? There's nothing to forgive because they don't know better. And I've often thought about this. If Jesus would have had a different attitude while he was being crucified, I don't think that he would have rose from the dead. If he would have said, instead of Father, forgive them, they know not what they do, if he would have said, hey, what did I ever do to you? All I've done is heal the sick and feed the poor, make the blind see, and this is the thanks I get? You guys suck. It may seem silly, but if he would have said that, and if he would have really felt that way, I'm not sure he would have had the power to raise from the dead. It was his ability to transcend hatred and fear. It was his ability to believe he could raise from the dead, to see it, to feel it, to know that love is stronger than fear and that death was an illusion. It was his perfect love that gave him the power to beat death. The crucifixion and the resurrection Both are true. Which one do you focus upon? And the answer to that question will determine the world that you perceive. You can see a world of miracles and love, or you can see a world of guilt and sin and fear. We can believe in new life, just as the spring brings new life every year to this planet, or we can stay stuck in the winter of death, frozen forever in our old programming. Every day, we crucify ourselves, or every day, we join in the resurrection. It's 100% up to us. It's what we focus upon, what we believe, and what we allow our mind and our heart to perceive. This Easter Sunday, 2023, I invite you to look at the metaphor of the resurrection and to think, what would a resurrection in your life look like? Would it look like a healed relationship, or a better job, a happy romance, a healthy body? There's no order of difficulty in miracles. Think of the places in your life where you need a resurrection. How long have you been stuck in the tomb, right? You only really need to be there for 3 days, but I get it. I understand, right? Some of us get stuck there for decades. I know I was. And I believed, and I was still stuck. I know it's not easy, right? But it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter what happened 3 days ago, or 30 years ago, or 50 years ago. What matters is now, right here, right now, today, this moment. In this moment, you get to choose life or death, the crucifixion or the resurrection, love or fear, newness or the same old, same old. On this Easter Sunday, 2023, my wish for you and for me and for everyone on this planet is new life, resurrection of our mental patterning, of our physical bodies, of our health, of our attitudes, of our beliefs. I wish for you a garden full of lilies and beauty in every area of your life. Miracles are your birthright. How do I know that? Because you're here. And you are part of the resurrection, whether you know it or not. You are part of this divine unfolding, the story, this epic story of our human race, the story of how we're evolving, the story of our collective resurrection. The Course says that the second coming of Christ will occur when all of us awaken to the Christ within ourselves. Man, that was a refreshing viewpoint compared to what I thought for decades, just sitting around waiting for Jesus to come on some white horse. My old belief in the rapture, that the Christians would go and leave the rest behind, that was a scary, awful way to believe. When I heard Marianne Williamson say that quote like 30 years ago in a Course in Miracles lecture, it made so much sense to my mind, right? The second coming is when we all awaken to the Christ within ourselves. It just makes sense, right? It just makes sense to me. My prayer for you and all of us is that we will awaken to the Christ within us, that we will see and focus upon the resurrection in our thoughts and in our broken hearts and in all the painful programming in our minds, that we will allow and accept and invite the love and the resurrection power of the Holy Spirit to raise us from the death of yesterday and our past. This Easter 2023, you can decide to focus upon the resurrection, whatever that means for you. A new thought, a new belief. The Course says that a miracle is a shift in perception. Just see a relationship in a new way. Forgive that person you haven't forgiven for your whole life. Do it for you, because there is power in forgiveness and in letting go of pain and hate and fear and blame. It's so powerful. It can raise you from the dead. Have a great Easter today. God bless you in every area of your life. May you have a resurrection. Take care.